Marble statues and the splendor of invincible legions are just beautiful decorations of ancient Rome. The real metropolis pulsated with primitive fear. It was a dark night. In a crowded wooden insula, the floorboards creaked menacingly, and the stale air was thick with suffocating smoke. But the real truth was much harsher. Historians rarely talk about it. Most people don't even understand how it actually worked. It was a ruthless system on which everything depended. It was here, in the cramped and dark labyrinths of the slums, that it all began. It was here that everything was decided. The ancient city of millions balanced on the edge of an abyss, grinding human destinies into dust every day. Without this bloody conveyor belt, Rome would never have become an empire. This hidden mechanism changed the course of history, but in order for the great capital to continue to shine in eternity, the system required a grandiose, monstrous sacrifice. And one night, a chain reaction was set in motion that forever exposed the terrible secret of the eternal city's survival. Imagine that you live in ancient Rome. Your usual day begins, a sharp jolt from sleep. Your eyes open in pitch darkness, and immediately your chest is pressed down by hot, stale air. Breathing is a struggle. Your lungs are instantly filled with a nauseating cocktail. Rotten straw, stale, sour sweat, and the acrid soot of cheap oil lamps. This is your usual good morning. There is not a single square meter of free space around you. Right next to you, on the dirty floor, 5 other poor souls are wheezing in their sleep. You try to move, but the rotten boards under your back creak menacingly as if they are about to collapse to the floor below. Want to roll over onto your other side? It's useless. Your shoulder immediately presses into the rough wall covered with slimy mold. The trap has snapped shut. Your skin burns with fire. Bedbugs, which have been breeding for years in the hard straw mattress, have once again arranged a night feast. You run your dirty hand over your itchy neck with disgust. Your fingers slide over a disgusting sticky layer. A mixture of cold night, sweat, and ingrained city dust that penetrates every crack. Forget about birdsong or the serene morning silence. Your ears are already assaulted by the low, oppressive hum of the awakening metropolis. And it is by no means the triumphant marches of legions or the majestic clang of gold. It is the endless, maddening rumble of carts, the curses of drivers, and the desperate cries of merchants. The night is technically over, but your exhausted body has no idea. There was no rest. You have to get up. You move like a sapper in a minefield, careful not to crush the arms and legs of your relatives sleeping huddled together. Your head is splitting mercilessly. Severe dehydration and lack of oxygen in this tightly closed wooden box are taking their toll. Dull, dusty rays pierce the darkness through the cracked shutters. Blindly, you feel for your rough tunic, reeking of yesterday's street dirt. You pull it on while sitting. Why? Because the ceiling presses down on the back of your head, and it is physically impossible to stand up straight in this kennel. Welcome to the 6th floor of a Roman insula, the cheapest and deadliest place in the empire. In summer, this room under the roof works like an oven. In winter, the walls freeze so much that the icy draft instantly extinguishes any candles. But the main rule of this hole is that if a fire breaks out downstairs, you won't get out of here. 0 chance. This chilling thought hits your brain every single morning. It's the perfect reminder that you're at the bottom of the food chain in the great city of Rome. In the corner, a clay pot from the night before is waiting. The only toilet for the entire crowd in this tiny room. It has filled to the brim overnight, and the stench literally stings your eyes. Your mission, to take this filth out before the others suffocate in their sleep. You grab the heavy, slippery vessel with both hands. The main thing now is not to spill all this goodness on your bare feet. An excellent morning routine, perfectly illustrating the difference between your miserable life and the shining marble statues in the forum. Step outside the door onto a flimsy wooden platform with no hint of a railing. The rotten steps groan menacingly under your weight, threatening to collapse into the bottomless, black pit of the stairwell. From below, you can already hear the neighbors' choice curses and the heart-wrenching cries of hungry children. The walls around you are a gallery of black soot and spreading mold. You have to literally press your back against this filth to let a passing water carrier pass. He drills into you with a heavy gaze filled with weary hatred. Here, everyone hates everyone else. A long, dangerous descent in the darkness down a steep staircase littered with household rubbish. With each flight of stairs, the stench mutates, becoming denser and more unbearable. Open doors flash by. Inside, there is the same hopelessness, poverty, and crowding as in your own home. People are literally swarming over each other's heads, completely deprived of personal space. You can physically feel this rickety wooden tower vibrating from the bustle of hundreds of doomed souls locked within its unreliable walls. Finally, the saving grace of the first floor. The shops and workshops are still tightly locked at this hour. It's no easier to breathe here. The first floor is thick with the stench of sour, cheap wine and stale urine. Passers-by have been using the dark corners of the building as a free public toilet for centuries. You stumble out of the semi-darkness onto the street and are immediately blinded by the harsh morning sun. Your bare feet instantly sink ankle-deep into the sticky street slush that covers the stones even in the driest weather. You abruptly tip the pot directly into the sewer, a foul-smelling river cutting the street in half. All around, crazy chaos is already in full swing, with crowds jostling and fighting fiercely for every meter of space. The crowd habitually jumps over mountains of stinking garbage, trying in vain not to soil their clothes. No one cares about the stench anymore. It's the basic aroma of the Roman slums. You take a deep breath, hoping for fresh air, but the street is just as suffocating as your closed-off room. Pull the trigger. Another day of ruthless struggle for survival has begun. Step outside and you're at the bottom of a deep stone ravine. The road is barely wide enough for two carts to pass each other. Above your head, the ugly extensions of the upper floors loom menacingly. They almost touch, completely blocking out the sky. The sun is a rare, occasional visitor here. An eternal, oppressive gloom reigns, permeated with dampness and claustrophobia. It seems as if these rotten high-rises are about to collapse and crush each other. You dive into the flow of people. The crowd picks you up and carries you like a helpless splinter in a seething sewer. There is only one goal: to get to the public fountain for water. Sweaty slaves, insolent merchants, and desperate beggars jostle each other roughly. Your eyes are constantly downcast. One wrong step and you're knee-deep in horse manure or rotting scraps. Your sandals are already soaked through. Disgusting cold slime sticks to your feet. Suddenly, a piercing scream comes from above. Your reflexes save you. You miraculously manage to jump back, pressing yourself tightly against the dirty brickwork. A bucket of stinking slop flies out of a third-floor window and lands right on the heads of the crowd. Without warning, dirty splashes fly in all directions. Your neighbor on the left is covered in filth and chokes on a string of choice curses. This is normal for Rome. There is simply no sewage system in these anthills. You wipe your face with your sleeve in disgust. Today you are very lucky. The city noise hits your eardrums with deafening force. The clang of metal, the braying of donkeys, the curses of cart drivers, and the banging of hammers merge into a single hum. You can't hear your own thoughts. There are no traffic rules. The strongest and most insolent are right. The crowd is roughly pushed aside by broad-shouldered slaves carrying the stretcher of a wealthy client. People are simply pressed against the walls. You swallow your humiliation, feeling a sharp pang of pure hatred for those who soar above this filth. Finally, an intersection and a fountain. Ahead is an endless, exhausted line of slaves and women. The pressure in the aqueduct is zero today, and water barely trickles out in a pitiful stream. You have to wait, inhaling the thick aroma of unwashed bodies and absorbing the local gossip. They murmur about the rise in grain prices. They whisper about a new disease that is killing children in the neighboring quarter. An icy lump of anxiety slowly settles in your empty stomach. The water is murky, warm. There is no choice. You scoop it up with your hands and swallow greedily, forcing yourself not to think about what filth is floating in it. It tastes of rusty metal and musty mold. Your thirst recedes only for a moment. You fill your jug to the brim. It will barely last until evening. Every liter here is paid for with your time and sweat. which are already in short supply. The way back is a real quest. The street is packed. In a dark alley, two men are methodically kicking a third. The crowd flows indifferently past. There were no guards here, and there never will be. Your life is your own problem. You quicken your pace, clutching the priceless jug tightly to your chest. Your eyes are fixed on the ground. You avoid eye contact with anyone. Your heart pounds, absorbing the animal aggression that hangs in the air. A butcher's shop. Carcasses dangle from rusty hooks, covered in black clouds of fat flies. The smell of stale blood is unsuccessfully masked by cheap spices. Your stomach cramps painfully, but meat is a luxury. Your limit is hard, questionable bread. A perfect reminder of your place. You are a free citizen, but you always want to eat. A sharp blow to your ears. The ground shakes slightly beneath your feet. You turn around. At the end of the street where builders were digging, a giant cloud of thick dust rises. Another dilapidated wall has collapsed like a house of cards, burying workers and random passers-by alive. Screams, a stampede. Blind panic. Death does not hide here. It stands around every corner, waiting for its turn. Without hesitation, you dive into a narrow gap between the houses, cutting your way away from the approaching chaos. Here, darkness and dampness reign around the clock. The bones of dead rats and broken ceramics crunch nastily under your feet. You break into a run. You need to get to your miserable room, your illusion of safety, as quickly as possible. Your breath is ragged, your aching muscles burning from the endless climb. There are no more illusions. This great city is not a monument. It is a giant, merciless trap for people like you. With a heavy sigh, you return to the stuffy island, quickly leave the water you brought, and go back out into the street. Your goal today is simple and difficult: to earn at least a few coins for food. The dirtiest and most accessible work for people like you always awaits at the unloading of barges on the murky Tiber. Cheap hands and strong backs that can be broken without regret are always in demand there. The path to the river lies through the majestic forum, shining with marble and bronze. But you try to avoid it, making your way through dark and narrow alleys. You don't want to be seen by city patrols or wealthy citizens. You look too pathetic for the center of the empire, and they might just chase you away with sticks. You walk along the embankment, where the thick smell of stagnant water mixes with the unbearable stench of rotting fish and garbage. The river here looks yellow, murky, and frighteningly fast. It carries all the sewage and waste of a huge, overpopulated metropolis. The Tiber is the vein of Rome, but the blood in it is dirty and poison. The pier is filled with unimaginable hustle and bustle and chaos that makes your head spin. The loud shouts of the overseers drown out the sound of the water and the shrill creaking of the wooden cranes. You are assigned the hardest job, carrying huge clay amphorae filled with olive oil. They stand on a constantly swaying deck, and it is incredibly difficult to keep your balance. The amphorae are slippery from spilled oil and too heavy for one person to lift. Their rough-fired clay instantly scrapes the skin off your palms until they bleed. You feel your back straining to the limit with every lift. Every step on the rickety ladder is a huge effort and causes sharp pain in your lower back. Fear drives you harder than the cries of the overseer with his whip. If you accidentally break an expensive amphora, its full cost will be deducted from your earnings immediately. This means that you will go hungry not only today, but for the entire next week. You cling to the clay sides with a death grip, praying to the gods for luck. The sun rises mercilessly higher and higher, and the heat becomes simply unbearable. The hot stones of the pavement give off heat, turning the port into an open oven. Your rough tunic is soaked through and sticks to your body like a second skin. Acrid sweat floods your eyes, blurring your vision, and the salt stings your irritated skin mercilessly. Suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you see an old gray-haired porter collapse from exhaustion nearby. He gasps for air, but no one even thinks of stopping work. The overseer just kicks him viciously with his foot, demanding that he get up immediately or get out of the way. There is no room here for sympathy or pity for the weak. You quickly look away and continue carrying your load, trying not to look at the fallen man. You understand perfectly well that you too are just a replaceable tool in this machine. If you fall, another hungry wretch from the queue will immediately take your place. Your life is worth less than the oil in the jug you are carrying. By noon, you manage to earn a few copper coins for your morning shift. It's a pittance, but it should be enough for a meager daily ration to keep you from dying. You head to the nearest cheap bakery, guided by the thick smell of hot dough. The aroma seems divine to you and drives your empty stomach crazy. The line for free government grain for citizens is huge, noisy, and aggressive. But you are not on the list of lucky ones who have Roman citizenship, so you have to pay. You buy one round loaf of bread, which looks dark and dense, like a river stone. You know that the flour in it is generously mixed with chalk and sawdust for weight, but you have no choice, and you are grateful even for this coarse food. You find a free spot in the shade of a peeling portico to eat your lunch. You eagerly break off pieces of hard bread with your dirty, trembling hands. Sand and small pebbles crunch disgustingly between your teeth, making you shudder. Sand and stone chips inevitably get into the flour when grinding grain on rough millstones. Every bite is a risk of breaking a tooth and becoming crippled for life. Toothache here means long suffering, as doctors are expensive. You chew very slowly and carefully, trying not to close your jaws sharply. You moisten dry bread with saliva for a long time to somehow swallow this dense lump. Around you in the shade sit other tired laborers in dirty tunics. They also silently and intently consume their meager food, staring into space. This is a time of silence when strength is restored before new work. There is no drinking water nearby, and the dry bread sticks in your parched throat like a painful lump. You choke, and it causes a painful bout of loud hiccups. You look at your hands resting on your knees and don't recognize them. They are covered with a layer of ingrained dirt, fresh abrasions, and old hard calluses. Your nails are broken at the root, and black river clay and fuel oil are deeply embedded under them. This dirt is impossible to wash off. It has become part of your skin. You feel completely worn out and old, even though the day is only halfway through. Your body demands immediate rest and sleep, every muscle aching. But you know that you cannot rest. You need to find some more work for the evening. Suddenly, there is a flurry of activity and noise in the street. Frightened people hurriedly press themselves against the walls of houses, making way for an important procession. Priests are solemnly carrying a statue of some deity you have forgotten. They sing monotonous hymns loudly and burn expensive incense in golden bowls. You see the pure gold on the statue glistening dazzlingly in the sun. This glare contrasts sharply with the grayness, poverty, and dirt of your street. Religion is everywhere here, with temples on every corner. But you feel that the real gods left this poor neighborhood long ago and forgot about it. You simply lower your head, not wanting to attract the attention of religious fanatics. It is better to be invisible than to offend the deity with your pitiful appearance. The procession passes by, leaving behind the smell of incense, which mixes with the stench of garbage. After a quick lunch, you find a new hard job at a large public bath construction site. Here you have to mix thick mortar in deep pits, standing knee-deep in slush. Caustic quicklime eats away at the skin on your feet down to the flesh. You feel an unbearable burning sensation with every step in this white, sticky pit. Construction dust hangs in the air, blocking out the sun, clogging your nose and tearing at your throat. It makes you cough constantly and hoarsely, spitting out white mucus. You breathe in thick white fog that settles in your lungs like a heavy weight. You know that many construction workers die very young, coughing up blood. But you need money today to pay for lodging and food tomorrow. By evening, your physical strength is completely depleted, turning into nothing. You can barely move your leaden legs from the wild, all-consuming fatigue. You receive your pay for the second shift and hide the coins deep in your pocket. Now you slowly wander home, dreaming only of a deep, dreamless sleep. The eternal city begins to rapidly change its daytime appearance to nighttime. The first oil lamps light up in the windows, and shadows come out onto the dark streets. You can feel the atmosphere around you changing. The air becomes more ominous, tense, and dangerous with the arrival of thick twilight. You instinctively quicken your pace, trying to stay in well-lit areas. You know very well that night in Rome belongs not to honest people, but to thieves and murderers. Any shadow in a doorway could be hiding a knife, ready to slit your throat and steal your wallet. You finally return to your huge, overcrowded, and noisy insula. You have to climb the same endless creaky stairs to the top floor. Your legs are buzzing and refuse to obey you. Every step is a victory over yourself. By evening, the smell in the house has become even thicker, denser, and heavier. The aroma of sewage is joined by the lingering smell of cheap soup and garlic fried in lard. You enter your cramped room and fall onto the hard mattress in complete exhaustion. You close your eyes trying to relax, but for some reason, the long-awaited sleep does not come. Your body buzzes with overexertion, your muscles cramp. And in your head, the anxious thought of tomorrow and the search for bread keeps spinning. You survived today, and that's already a small victory in the battle with the city. But tomorrow the sun will rise again, and everything will start all over again in the same cycle. You lie in the darkness, listening to the breathing of the sleeping city that never spares its children. The evening brings not the long-awaited coolness, but only a heavy thickening of the stifling air and an intensification of the city's smells. The stone of the houses has heated up so much during the day that it now acts like a huge oven, giving off heat. The wind dies down completely, and a thick, acrid smog from thousands of kitchen stoves hangs over the city. It becomes difficult to breathe. The air seems thick and sticky, like jelly. You lie on your back, staring into the darkness of the sooty ceiling, listening to the endless sounds behind the thin wall. Life in the insula never quietens down, even in the middle of the night. Neighbors argue loudly over spilled cheap oil. Somewhere a hungry baby cries inconsolably. Someone coughs a heavy, wet cough that echoes throughout the floor. These sounds merge into a single monotonous hum that weighs on your psyche and prevents you from relaxing for a minute. You try to cover your ears, but the noise penetrates right into your brain. You feel a strange, clammy anxiety that you can't explain logically, but you can feel it more clearly with your skin. The hairs on your arms stand on end for no apparent reason. The air seems electrified and tense, as if before the strongest thunderstorm, although there is not a single cloud in the sky. Your neighbors are also acting nervously, their conversations becoming louder, sharper, and more aggressive. It seems that madness is slowly enveloping the entire house. Dogs in the street begin to howl, and their drawn-out cries penetrate even the thick stone walls of the lower floors. Animals sense danger before humans do, and their fear is contagious. You try to calm yourself, telling yourself that it's just accumulated fatigue after a hard day. But your ancient instinct for self-preservation tells you otherwise, making your heart beat faster. You sit on your bed, peering into the darkness. Suddenly, you smell a new burning odor that is distinctly different from the usual kitchen smoke. It is sharper, more chemical and acrid, with a distinct taste of burning resin and old dry wood. You sniff, propping yourself up on your elbows, and see that the other people in the room have also stirred. Sleep instantly vanishes from everyone, giving way to anxious anticipation. Someone cautiously approaches the window and looks outside, trying to understand the source of this strange smell. A heavy, tense silence hangs in the room, broken only by the creaking of the dry floor. Everyone freezes, afraid to confirm their worst suspicions. Even the baby behind the wall seems to have stopped crying. You hear distant screams that are approaching alarmingly quickly and becoming clearer with every second. These are not the usual drunken cries of revelers, but the piercing screams of real horror and animal panic. The words "fire, fire" echo through the narrow streets. Your heart skips a beat, and cold sweat instantly breaks out on your forehead, despite the heat. A fire in an overcrowded insula is practically a death sentence, and you know this better than anyone. Wooden floors burst into flames like matches, and there is usually little chance of escape. You jump to your feet, instantly forgetting your fatigue and aching muscles. Adrenaline rushes through your blood, forcing you to act. You run to the window and see an ominous orange glow that already illuminates the roofs of neighboring houses. The fire has come too close, devouring the dry wooden beams at an alarming rate. The wind, which wasn't there a minute ago, suddenly picks up as if helping the elements. It fans the flames, turning them into a roaring beast. Sparks fly across the black sky like a swarm of angry fire bees, setting fire to neighboring roofs and balconies. You realize that the wall of fire is moving straight towards your house, and there is almost no time left. You need to run immediately, otherwise you will burn alive in this stone trap. Wild panic breaks out in the hallway. People rush out of their rooms, pushing, screaming, and knocking each other down. You frantically grab your few valuables, but immediately drop them on the floor. You realize that any load will slow you down and could cost you your life. The main thing now is to save yourself, To get out of this burning wooden box and onto the street, you run out onto the staircase, which is already packed with frightened residents from the upper floors. It is already dark here. Acrid smoke is rapidly filling the narrow passageway, and it is becoming incredibly difficult to breathe. You feel someone pushing you hard in the back, and you barely manage to hold onto the railing to keep from falling. Someone is desperately shouting the name of a lost child. Someone else is trying to drag a huge chest with their belongings. This chest is blocking the passage, creating a deadly traffic jam. You push the chest and its owner away with force, ignoring the curses and threats. In such a situation, the veneer of civilization and politeness disappears instantly, leaving only raw animal instincts. You push your way down, working hard with your elbows and shoulders, fighting for every inch of space. Your goal is the first floor, and nothing should stop you. The smoke is getting thicker, stinging your eyes and tearing your throat with a painful cough. You cover your face with the edge of your tunic, but the thin fabric does little to help with the suffocation. You can no longer see the worn steps, only feel them with your feet, relying on muscle memory. An unbearable heat rises from below, and you realize that the lower floors are probably already burning. Your fear turns into sheer terror when you hear the loud crack of beams breaking somewhere below. A stampede begins on the third floor. Someone has fallen and people are stumbling over them in the dark in a panic. You hear the crunch of bones and cries of pain, but the frenzied crowd continues to push from above. You have to literally walk over soft bodies, trying to shut down your mind. You forbid yourself to think that there are living people under your feet. Your conscience screams, but your powerful instinct for self-preservation drowns out that scream. You have to get out of here. You have to survive at any cost. Finally, you see the saving light of the exit, but it is partially blocked by a burning beam that has fallen from the ceiling. People are rushing around in panic, looking for another way out, but there simply isn't one. You see a narrow gap to the side of the raging flames and decide to risk everything. You take a deep breath into your burning lungs, cover your head with your hands and rush forward. The heat burns your skin, your hair catches fire, but you break out onto the street. You tumble onto the pavement. Your knees hit the stones with a crunch, a greedy, desperate, convulsive breath. It's useless. There is no air here. There is only hot, heavy, poisonous gas, filled to the brim with gray ash. Thick, fat flakes of dead black snow fall from the sky. It instantly covers everything around you with a ghastly shroud. Welcome to absolute, primal hell on earth. The human brain is simply incapable of comprehending the scale of this catastrophe. The crazed crowd rushes in all directions. Animals scream in unbearable pain, hysterical cries over trampled corpses, meaningless, pitiful prayers to deaf gods. The narrow street has finally turned into a continuous tunnel of fire. Houses are burning on both sides. The cobblestones are red hot. They mercilessly burn your feet right through the thin soles of your sandals. The skin on your face melts and cracks from the unbearable, all-consuming heat. And this is dozens of meters away from the open flames. You force yourself to stand up. Stay here for even one more pitiful second, and you're dead. The charred, load-bearing walls of giant high-rises are about to collapse into the street. They will bury alive anyone who doesn't get out of the way in time. You jump up. You run blindly with the howling crowd. It doesn't matter where. The main thing is to get away from this roaring wall of fire. From above, hot debris from heavy tiles and burning pieces of rotten wooden beams rain down. They crunch skulls and maim people running nearby. You see the nightmare out of the corner of your eye. A piece of burning fabric falls from a burning window directly onto a woman running nearby. She bursts into flames instantly, like an oil-soaked torch. Her piercing death scream is drowned out by the deafening roar of the flames and the rumble of destruction. The streets of Rome were originally built not for evacuation, but for crowding. A deafening, deadly traffic jam forms. You are tightly squeezed into a dense mass of sweaty, hysterical bodies. You cannot move even a finger. The pressure on your chest becomes critical. Your ribs crack menacingly. It is physically impossible to take a life-saving breath. Mass hysteria is gaining momentum. people begin to brutally crush each other to death with inhuman, animalistic force. Suddenly, someone's bony, sharp elbow swings wildly and hits you right in the jaw. Your mouth instantly fills with the thick, salty taste of warm blood. Black circles float before your eyes. You are about to lose consciousness. Hold on, just don't fall. Desperately, with your last ounce of strength, cling to your vertical position. If you collapse onto the pavement, thousands of frenzied feet will turn you into a bloody pulp in seconds. Ahead, a squad of vigils flashes by. The vaunted City Fire Brigade. They are trying to ram through the oncoming human tide. In their hands are pathetic buckets and axes. Their faces are white as chalk from sticky horror. There are catastrophically few of them. Against the roaring, 100-meter-wide wall of fire, their attempts look simply ridiculous, a hopeless imitation of rescue. They frantically chop down neighboring wooden outbuildings with their axes. They try to create a protective fire break, but the elements don't care. The hurricane-force wind easily carries the flames across any artificial gaps. The firefighters' eyes show crystal-clear despair. They understand perfectly well that the battle is lost. There is absolutely no water. The primitive pumps have long since broken down. This city is officially doomed to a cruel death. A sharp turn to the side. You dive into a narrow, gloomy alley, a faint hope of finding a shortcut to the waters of the Tiber. There are fewer flames here, but the toxic smoke is compressed into a solid, impenetrable wall. Visibility is zero. Your feet constantly stumble over belongings thrown away in blind panic, overturned carts, and the soft, still warm bodies of those who were not quick enough. The acrid smoke burns your mucous membranes. You are effectively blind. You move forward blindly, relying only on pure animal instinct. You literally walk by touch. You frantically scrape your palms against the rough brickwork of the blind facade. The wall is unbearably hot, burning hot. Every touch leaves burns on your fingers, a perfect reminder that the fiery trap has closed. Suddenly, an apocalyptic roar erupts ahead. A huge 6-story wooden insula collapses right in front of you. A giant, blinding shockwave of red-hot sparks, pure flame, and suffocating construction dust shoots into the sky. The sound is so powerful that it ruptures your eardrums. The shockwave throws your exhausted body onto the rocks like a weightless feather. You lie on the scorching ground. Deafening concussion, broken bricks, nails, and a thick layer of sticky ash rain down on you. Your brain freezes. Are you alive? Or have you already burned to death and passed into the underground realm of shadows? There is a piercing, high-pitched ringing in your ears. The whole world around you is spinning in a bloody, nauseating dance of fire. You force your muscles to work. Your legs have turned to cotton wool and categorically refuse to bear your weight. A primal, paralyzing fear binds your will. Ominous silhouettes appear through the smokescreen. Looters. These vultures are professionals at exploiting total chaos. They methodically, without fuss, gut the broken shops. They don't care about the dead. They cold-bloodedly rob the smoking corpses right on the pavement. They tear gold chains from burnt necks and drag away rolls of expensive silk. Greed is stronger than the instinct for self-preservation. The vaunted civilized nature of the Romans vanishes in a second, exposing their filthy, rotten insides. You begin to frantically crawl away. Here, they will easily slit your throat just for your worn tunic. In this blazing hell, all laws are officially abolished. There is no morality here anymore. The local gods have been burned alive. Only one crystal-clear rule remains: the uncompromising, cruel survival of the strongest, the most despicable, or the most cunning. A burst of speed, another burst. You collapse onto a wide, windswept square. The air here is much fresher. There is oxygen here. Your muscles give out completely. You collapse like a sack onto the smooth stones. Your resources are completely exhausted. Around you, hundreds of people just like you, broken, burned, having lost everything, writhe on the cobblestones. Hysteria. Someone tears their throat out, shouting the names of missing wives and children into the indifferent, roaring emptiness of the red night. You stare blankly at your palms, limply thrown onto your knees. They are completely black. Thick soot mixed with someone else's blood is stuck in the pores. The skin is swollen menacingly with horrible oozing blisters. a crystal clear, icy thought pulsates in your head. In just 1 hour, you have lost absolutely everything. A miserable life, but your own. The great sky above the capital of the world is painted in a dense, impenetrable, ominous, bloody gradient. This is not just a fire. It seems that the ancient world itself is now crashing into the underworld. Thick ash falls on the square like a soft carpet. It muffles the sound of footsteps, turning the hustle and bustle into a silent, ghostly movie. Right now, you can physically feel a rod breaking deep inside with a crunch. Hope is dying. The pitiful belief in the legitimate order, in the greatness and protection of the empire, is burning away forever. Tomorrow does not exist. You witness with your own eyes how the vaunted greatness of Rome devours itself with relish. It burns on the fuel of its own rot, monstrous crampedness, and boundless greed. The scale of the disaster is mesmerizing, and its ugly essence is nauseating. You close your eyes tightly. You try to shut your brain off from this nightmare. It's useless. The flashes of flame are burned into your retina. 2 meters away from you, a man is choking on his own blood, coughing up pieces of his burnt lungs. You are completely helpless. You don't have a drop of clean water. You don't have an ounce of physical strength to even reach out to him. You remain lying on the cold stones. You wait blankly for the saving dawn. You pray to the void that the fiery storm will not consume this area as well. Only one clear fact is pounding in your head. This hellish night has forever rewritten your destiny. That is, of course, assuming you make it to morning. Dawn comes to the city not with the usual bright sunlight, but with a heavy, dirty gray haze. It struggles to break through the thick veil of black smoke that covers Rome like a dense blanket. The great city is still burning in places, but the main furious roar of the fire has been replaced by the ominous crackling of dying embers. The sun looks like a dull copper coin thrown into dirty water. You struggle to open your eyes, and your eyelashes, stuck together with dried mucus and soot, hurt. The first thing you feel is not relief at being saved, but a monstrous, all-consuming thirst. Your tongue is swollen and feels like a rough piece of wood in your mouth. Your body aches so badly it feels like you've been mercilessly beaten with sticks all night long. Every muscle throbs, reminding you of your mad dash with death. With difficulty, leaning on your trembling hands, you get to your feet and look around. You try to recognize the place that was once your home, but your mind refuses to believe your eyes. Instead of narrow, noisy streets and tall, multi-story buildings, an endless field of smoking ruins stretches out before you. Only black, charred skeletons of walls remain, resembling rotten teeth in the mouth of a huge monster. The familiar landmarks are gone. No longer is there a familiar bakery on the corner or a temple with a red roof. You struggle to understand which direction your neighborhood was in. Everything around you has turned into a homogeneous, gray, lifeless mass of ash and stone debris. The world has lost its colors, leaving only black and gray. You take an uncertain step and immediately feel the hot earth burning through the thin soles of your sandals. The stones under your feet still retain the heat of hellfire, not cooling down even a degree. The air is still full of poisonous fumes and ash particles. Each breath is difficult and causes a severe barking cough. You bend over and cough up thick black mucus onto the ground. You realize that your lungs are clogged with soot, and this mark will remain with you for a long time. Silent shadows wander around, bumping into each other in the gray fog. They are people, covered in ash from head to toe, resembling ghosts from the underworld. No one speaks. Everyone is in a state of deep shock and complete numbness. You slowly walk to the place where, according to your calculations, your house used to stand. You hope to find at least something, some sign of your past life. But when you get closer, all you see is a huge mountain of broken bricks and smoldering beams. Hope dies instantly, replaced by dull pain. Your few possessions and modest savings are buried forever under these heavy rubble. Your neighbors who didn't make it to the stairs may also lie there. You stand and stare at these smoking ruins, feeling nothing but emptiness. Tears do not flow down your dirty cheeks because there is simply no moisture left in your body to cry. You drop to your knees and start digging through the hot stones with your bare hands. You don't know what you're looking for, but you can't stop. Your fingers burn on the stones, your nails break and bleed. but you continue to dig with maniacal persistence. This action helps you not to go completely insane. At some point, you find a melted, shapeless piece of metal. Turning it over in your hands, you guess that it was someone's belt buckle, or perhaps a coin. This is all that remains of the entire lives of dozens of families who lived in this huge house. You bitterly throw the useless find back into the ashes and wipe your black hands on your tunic. Suddenly, you stumble upon something soft and pliable in the rubble. You pull your hand back in animal horror, realizing that it is not a rag. It is a human body, or rather what remains of it after the fire, unrecognizable and terrifying. You turn away sharply, feeling nausea rising in your throat despite your completely empty stomach. Death is everywhere here, literally mixed with the dust you are forced to breathe. You realize that you are lucky, incredibly and undeservedly lucky to be alive. This thought brings no joy, only survivor's guilt. You wander away from the terrible ruins, heading for the Tiber River, where you hope to find water. Along the way, you see groups of looters who have been captured by city soldiers or vigils. They are executed on the spot without trial or investigation, stabbed with swords. Their bodies are thrown directly into the smoldering fire or into the river, adding to the horror of the morning. The authorities are desperately trying to regain control of the situation, but they are doing so with the usual Roman cruelty. Order is being restored with iron and blood against a backdrop of ashes. You lower your eyes and try to walk past as quickly and quietly as possible. Your goal is to become invisible, to blend in with the gray crowd. At the river, the crowd is even larger and denser than it was last night. Everyone is trying to get to the water to drink from the murky Tiber. You roughly push people aside with your shoulders and fall face first into the water near the shore. You greedily swallow this dirty, warm sludge, not thinking about disease. The water tastes terrible. It smells of smoke and slime. But it is water, and it gives you back some strength. You wash your face, trying to wash away the crust of soot and blood. In the reflection, you see a complete stranger with crazy, inflamed eyes. You are no longer the carefree resident you were yesterday morning. You sit on the dirty shore, staring blankly at the black smoke rising above the 7 hills of Rome. You realize that you have nowhere else to go. You have no home, no clothes except what you are wearing, and no job. Your tools are burned, your master's workshop is destroyed, the entire city is in ruins, and it will take years of hard, back-breaking labor to rebuild it. You feel like a pitiful speck of dust in this chaos, unwanted and forgotten by the gods. Your future is hidden behind a thick veil of acrid smoke, just like the city itself. A group of wealthy citizens in clean white togas passes by, contrasting sharply with the blackness around them. They are heavily guarded by tall slaves with clubs, driving away the poor. The rich discuss the extent of their losses and are already making plans to build new palaces on the vacant land. They look at you and the other fire victims with disgust, as if you were trash that simply needs to be cleared out of the way. You feel a cold, angry rage boiling up inside you, along with an understanding of the profound injustice of the world. You survived hell, but your real struggle for life is just beginning. A couple of endless days pass. You adapt to the wild, animalistic life under the open sky at a frightening speed. You sleep right on the bare ground of the Roman squares. You cover yourself with a rough piece of dirty, smoke-stained fabric. Around you lie thousands of other trampled, homeless shadows. Your skin has become numb, turning into a dark shell from the ingrained dirt and merciless sun. Your gaze has mutated. Now it is hard, cold, scanning everyone you meet for threats. You instantly learn to fight tooth and nail for a piece of stale government bread. The authorities throw it into the crowd not out of pity. It's a blunt calculation, just to shut people up and quell the inevitable hunger riots. Wild hunger has become your personal companion, burning away the remnants of human emotion. The dead city creaks back into consciousness. The endless task of clearing giant black piles of rubble and mass graves begins. You sell yourself to clear the dead streets. Why? Because it's the only legal way to eat. Now you rake through these smoking mass graves with your bare, worn-out hands. You tear your veins, pulling out charred beams and unliftable stone blocks. Hellish, back-breaking labor for a pittance, a mocking pittance. Every day, someone nearby breaks their spine or dies under suddenly collapsing floors. But you don't care. You chop mechanically like a soulless machine. No thoughts. One goal: to live until evening and get your ration. Your mind mercifully shuts down to a deafening zero. Only your sore, aching muscles work. Through the dust, you notice something strange. On the site of the former slums, surveyors are already actively marking out the foundations for new Cyclopean palaces. A poisonous rumor creeps through the ruins. The emperor has long dreamed of an unprecedented golden house. He desperately needed clean land in the center of the capital, and the fire incredibly conveniently simply cleared the area. The puzzle clicks into place in your head. This apocalypse was perfectly advantageous to those at the top. Your burned-out life is someone's brilliant investment in real estate. Your shack didn't burn down by accident. It simply got in the way of the empire's expansion. A cold rage rises inside you. You are dirt, just cheap, expendable biomaterial in the hands of a ruthless state machine. Look at your hands, a continuous pattern of ugly scars, broken knuckles, and festering sores from toxic dust. You cough violently 24 hours a day, spitting black mucus from your lungs. This heavy, barking cough has settled in your chest forever. Your personal built-in medal for surviving the fire. Friends, noisy neighbors, family, all reduced to ashes. This loss has burned your soul to an absolute glassy vacuum. You are saturated with pure, concentrated cynicism. The mercy of the gods? Earthly justice? Pathetic fairy tales for fools. From now on, you pray only to brute physical strength, street cunning, and blind luck. Your illusions went up in smoke along with the roof of the insula. One day, you wander past the cleared forum. The triumphant march of the invincible legions rolls toward you. The blinding glare of ceremonial armor, the heavy gold of the eagles, the sated, haughty faces of the legionnaires. You used to tremble. Now it only makes you want to vomit. Cheap, fake theater of the absurd. A cynical mockery of black burnout reality. This monster burns to the ground and is reborn, stepping right over your bones. The fear of death has completely atrophied. You have gone through real hell, not the one invented by priests, and you came out of it on your own 2 feet. You are firmly soldered into this endless, bloody cycle of destruction. You are forged in fire. Now you are a true 100% Roman. Twilight. You sit by a pitiful fire, gathered from the remains of someone's burnt bed. Your gaze is fixed on the fire. The primal fear is gone. All that remains is a cold, grim respect for the elements. You break a hard, stale flatbread in half. You give a piece to a stranger who is just as dirty and has lost everything. You don't say a word. Empty chatter doesn't work here. You read each other's pain on a cellular level. You are survivors. It's the only title, the only currency that has real weight in this ash. Tomorrow, another meat grinder will begin, and you are ready to face it fully armed, without pity. You fall back onto the cooling cobblestones. Your dirty palm serves as a pillow. Stars shine through the torn holes in the smokescreen. Icy, unreachable, completely indifferent to your existence. They are an exact copy of this eternal city. It never sleeps, never forgives mistakes, and never pities the weak. You close your eyes. One simple fact pulsates in your head. If you open your eyes again tomorrow, it will be a triumph. You have survived a week in the hell of ancient Rome, but will you have enough strength for the rest of your life? You fall into a deep black sleep without dreams, and behind you, the empire continues to breathe methodically, grinding people down and preparing for a new catastrophe.